Let me record. There, you got it. Thank you for reminding me of that, Riley. Yes, we will record this and then I will share it again later. We are also creating a YouTube channel and I'm adding these. So we'll have a whole library of these drawing on discovery videos. So you can always go back and look at them again if you forget something. Thank you, Riley. Okay, it's all you, Zeb. Go.
Hey, thank you so much, Jean, for having me for this workshop today. Like Jean said, it's drawing on discovery. So every month or so, we just jump into a new subject. This month, February, we will talk more about the value scales, but specifically, I guess, in drawing, but also too in painting, which is where a lot of the development for values came in, and also in printmaking as well. You see a lot of different types of values ranges, meaning from light to dark, sort of be explored through either intaglio, which is a printmaking method, is where it's chemically, there's a lot of chemicals involved, but there's nonetheless, I'll quickly explain, but through this workshop, we'll explore specifically how artists in painting, such as Da Vinci and others, master Renaissance artists, explored the different value scales from light to dark, or like Caravaggio as well, but also to how Dürer, who was a famous printmaker, also explored value scale. But then we'll also see some drawings by, for example, Jacques Louis David, who was a French painter. But let me go ahead and share my screen with you all so we can get started. And thank you so much for being here, carving some time out of your day to join us. Okay, and I think can everybody see my screen so far?
Yep.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can see them? You can see my screen?
We see your screen.
Can you see the drawing value scale of PowerPoint?
Yes, that's what we see.
Perfect. Okay, so let me go ahead and prepare. So here we'll just start with this image that I gathered from, I think it was the School of Art Institute of Chicago, the museum, if I have that correct. This is by Jacques Louis David, and this is just a mere drawing that he used a black chalk pen and black and brown ink. But don't worry, you won't need any of those tools. After the PowerPoint, I'll show you what you'll need, which is just different types of pencils that come in different types of values. But let's get started. I chose this because this image really started to kind of embrace some of the sort of research that I was conducting during this time, the value scale. And I'm really much inspired by David's work. You're probably very familiar with his work. He worked during the French Revolution. Maybe there's a famous painting by the Death of Socrates. So you're probably very familiar with, which is a painting that I show to my students, which I really, especially trying to analyze color relationships. But nonetheless, let's see. Okay, great. So when we talk about light or shading, we tend to incorporate it into the visual elements of art. So here I wanted to also include the other visual elements of art, which is line. And we'll talk about line more because it is a fundamental element of art that, for example, Dürer or other printmakers used when they were etching on their plates, and that's one way that they created value. But a line is just a mark that has a greater length and width. And then, of course, in the visual elements of art, we have shape, texture, light, color, space, and time, which all play a huge role when we sort of look at art. But we'll, of course, touch upon line, like I said, and then we'll also kind of go over light, which is a very important part of trying to create three-dimensionality on a flat surface. So light, a kind of energy that absorbs into or reflects off of different opaque objects, making them look lighter or darker. And of course, color also plays a key role in how we observe light and darkness, right? Color in this case is defined as what we see when light reflects off of different objects. And through that, through all these visual elements of art, we also tend to interpret space and time. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next. So what is drawing? Remember, I will be talking about drawing and painting, not so much printmaking, although I'll show some one example, I think, or two. But drawing is just descriptive marks along a surface, generally using a pen or a pencil as a tool. For the most part, of course, the surface is flat, and drawing is an art medium, of course, and then it allows viewers to see things, understand the imagination of an artist through the production of a work of art, understanding facts, topics, thoughts, ideas, interpret application of human creative skill to a finished work of art. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Okay. Okay, ways of seeing too. Our drawing allows us to see things in a really unique perspective. We use our senses, especially when we draw from observation. And drawing inquires upon facts through annotations on a surface and keen observation, like I just said. Okay, so moving on. One way to create values is hatched and cross-hatched lines. The artists use hatching by placing parallel lines close together, as you can see from the examples right underneath. Cross-hatching by placing intersecting lines close together to darken areas by shading. As you can probably tell here on the bottom right hand corner, you see that there's multiple lines running across in different directions so that we can darken an area. If we want something to be lighter, we only use implied lines, what you call, for the most part, lines that are not really there, but you connect them with the eye because they are adjacent to each other. Okay, great. So this is one way to, this is a really kind of fundamental way to kind of create values. I think this is one of those lessons that I try to teach my students when they first come into my class, maybe like the first project. I try to emphasize cross-hatch lines, and also contour lines, which I didn't really include here, but that's also very important among other like modified line contour drawings. That's also very important, but we'll just move on. Here we have an example of how the graphite pencil scale artists use it to their advantage. Here we have Vija Selmans, who I believe she's a Brazilian artist, but for the most part, artists use graphite pencils to make to explore the line qualities and create various types of lines, thick and thin lines. And I have this graphite pencil scale here because I feel like it's very helpful in terms of trying to kind of understand not only drawing, but also incorporate different values. Students, of course, tend to only use HB pencils, and I try to emphasize that there's more than just HB pencils. There's a 12B, which is your darkest value, and graphite, of course, and then 10H. And then what the H and the B and HB mean, you can find right here. HB is used to determine the hardness and darkness of the graphite pencils. The H stands for hardness. So the higher the number next to the H is, the harder the lead is, okay? And B stands for blackness. The higher the number next to B, the darker the marks will be. F stands for firm and means the pencil can be sharpened to a fine point. And you can really just purchase a kit of graphite pencils, I mean, from anywhere. So here we have a Leonardo da Vinci, a study of the fall of light on a face about 1488. And you can see that da Vinci here is trying to explore the ways in which value sort of hits the profile of a figure, specifically trying to kind of identify. And of course, the notes are kind of cryptic, but we kind of get an idea of where the light source originates from and how it might affect the flesh and particular areas of the face where the light will sort of reflect or be blocked by, I don't know, different types of but we'll look at this more from, but also remember that light and value are energy that travels in waves. Light waves travel through transparent objects like air, plastic, water, and glass. Value is how light or darker something is based on how much light that object reflects. And value, of course, includes infinite number of tones. Value is also considered a relation or in proportion to each other. So here, I created this example so that everyone can understand how light and value are relative to each other. So in the circle, we have the same dark value throughout the whole, what is it, 6 squares, 7 squares? The circle is the same value. However, you can see that all the way to the right is lighter because it's pit up against a darker value. And then on the left here, hand side corner here, we have a square that's lighter in value in contrast to the circle, which is darker, which makes it seem even more darker than it really is. But remember that the circle is the same value, okay? So I have not changed the value of the circle. All I've changed is just the square in the back. So it's very interesting to sort of see how value is sort of relates to each other. Okay, so moving on. Light hitting three-dimensional opaque objects. There's 4 different value areas that are a result of light traveling and hitting a three-dimensional object. This is very simplified, I think, but we have highlight, which is where the lightest value spot on the object that is most intensely hits by the light and that reflects the most light. Then we have darker valued area on the object. This area reflects less light because it receives less light. And then completely dark valued area on the object. And we'll see I'll show you examples specifically in painting, how artists use to their advantage this relationship to not only relative values, but also how they try to create a three-dimensional space in a flat surface. And then lastly, we have shadows. This is completely the dark valued area on the surface behind the object. Excuse me. So here is an example that I sort of tried to kind of put together so you can understand exactly more thoroughly what I'm talking about when it comes to, you know, where the values sort of originate from. For example, we have the light source here on the top left hand corner, and then we have the areas that are white, and then the highlights, of course, is sort of where the light seems to sort of reflect, which is called the highlight. And then we have the light here in the sphere, and then we have low light, which is closer to the center of the object. And then we have mid values that sort of start to originate because the light starts to lose any momentum against the object that it's sort of resting against. And then high dark, and then low dark, and then we have dark areas, which I don't know if you can really see the arrow, but it tends to end right over here. And then we have what we call shadows and reflected light and cast shadows. So we can create a three-dimensional sort of space, okay? And then we have black here, this black area here, which tends to be the cast shadow. And then technically, Denman Ross value scale is something that a lot of artists use in there as far as, which is something that we will do today. We will try to maybe create our own Denman Ross value scale, but it's one of the most common value scales is the Denman Ross version. The 9-step graduated scale was introduced by this American painter at the beginning of the 20th century and is still used today by many artists. As I said earlier, there's white, highlight, light, low light, mid value, high dark, dark, low dark, and black, okay? And then this is another diagram that I wanted to incorporate just because I felt like it was much more comprehensive than the previous one. Denman Ross value scale describes how values change between black and white. Denman Waldo Ross, professor of art at Harvard University and a trustee of the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, introduced this theory of tone relations. I'm sorry. Here's sort of more of a clear example that I kind of compiled together with Caravaggio's painting. So you can really see how, and I'll go thoroughly more in depth into how we can sort of try to understand more keenly how the distributions of value apply to paintings. But if you know Caravaggio, you probably are aware that he was very well known for developing the chiaroscuro technique, but more importantly, the tenebrism technique, which is just basically this idea of trying to not so much thoroughly describe the shadow dark areas, as much as it is to focus more on the areas where the lightest part sort of tries to sort of enhance the three-dimensionality of a two-dimensional flat surface. So you'll see that he tries to model light so that he is able to sort of heighten this dramatic effect of his narratives, of his paintings, which kind of contrasts his personal life. But nonetheless, just one example that I tried to sort of put together. And then here, more keenly, is like the light source here with this drawing that I found. I thought it would be perfect to show my students so for them to sort of understand how we can sort of start to think about the distribution of values. You can see that I've sort of appropriated each number here according to the figure here. And this is really important when it comes to anatomy and figure drawing classes, because that's how we are able to sort of convey space and proportions and scale. But nonetheless, here we have this 9-step value scale on the left, and here we have just a figure drawing rendering of a model that I sort of found online. You can see that some of the shadows here, sort of on the right, opposite to the light source, where the light source sort of originates from. And then colors in their full intensity and their neutral values. Here we can try to pair up, colors according to the different values. So yellow, there's no equal value to a white. So colors, there's no color. Yellow is probably the lightest in value, but there's nothing that compares to the widest area of the value scale. But here we have a sort of monochromatic full intensity scale. And then on the right side, we have a full intensity with analogous colors. And you'll see that the color wheel here this is very important because there's multiple ways of trying to create values in a painting, and we'll further explore that through different examples and how the High Renaissance really developed these ways in which we understand how color is used as a way to kind of engage with reality and a realism. Okay. So here we have the first example, Albert Dürer. It's an engraving here that I've sort of brought in. And you can see that, of course, it's a printmaking, but nonetheless, this is a really good example of how artists use cross-hatching and hatching to create different values, depth, and maybe not so much dramatic effects, but if we take a closer look, we can really see how Dürer is very technically savvy when it comes to creating cross hatching and hatching in his work. And okay, great. And then we have another example here: the head of the Virgin in 3/4 view facing right by Da Vinci. It's a really beautiful sort of effect of sfumato, which is a very I'm sure a lot of you know this term. But Da Vinci was one of those artists that was able to sort of develop the transitions of light to dark values. And you can really see that in the cheek and everywhere else in the 3/4 view facing right of the figure here. And then we have another anatomical study here of the hands. Oh, this impressive sheet demonstrates Rubens' understanding of the human body and his commitment to rigorous anatomical study of the sort pioneered in the Italian Renaissance. The same powerful left arm and hand appears in two positions. Each view exposes in detail the structure of the underlying muscles, bones, and blood vessels. Okay, you can really get into the details of the cross-hatching and hatching, which is sort of exceptionally done here by Peter Paul Rubens in this pen and brown ink. So technically you can create values with any kind of material. You could even use ink and wash. I mean, you name it. You can probably use lithography as well to create different sort of value scales as well. But of course, every media kind of lends itself to a different way of working. And then we have here another really good example by Gur with brush and gray ink, gray wash heightened with a white wash and on blue paper. Okay, this is a really, really good example. When I first saw this, I thought this was a really original, you have the full moon in the background here. It's just a really beautifully rendered. But okay, so next we'll talk about painting and how different artists use painting to create different value scales. But painting is important because it's really closely tied to art. A lot of people, when they think of art, they think of painting. But there's two traditional types of paintings, murals and easel paintings, but we'll only focus on easel paintings today. We have here I have mural paintings, but technically there's different types of mural paintings. You can have fresco paintings, which I would love to, if I had the opportunity to make a fresco, I would really love to do that. Actually, although it's very expensive and very time consuming, but I think it really it lends itself to really understanding the process of painting, I think. But nonetheless, easel painting is technically made by just a solitary artist, and it's displayed straight on, is self-contained. Some key terms that we'll talk about, we'll understand more is chiaroscuro, sfumato, tenebrism, unioni, and cangiante, which are known usually in the High Renaissance, developed by just different artists. But okay, so we'll start with sfumato, which if you really I guess chiaroscuro, all these three terms like sfumato, tenebrism, unione, cangiante fall under, I believe, chiaroscuro, I'm pretty sure. But sfumato is subtle transition between light and shadow. Tenebrism tends to be more dark, gloomy, and mysterious. And unione is similar to sfumato, but is more useful for the edges of chiaroscuro, where vibrant colors are involved. As with chiaroscuro, unione conveys a contrast, and as sfumato, it strives for harmony and unity. Raphael was very well known for using unione in his work. So you'll see a lot of coloristic richness in his work. Unione is softer than chiaroscuro in the search for the right tonal key. There should be the harmony between light and dark without the excesses and accentuations of chiaroscuro modes. Cangiante, to change one color abruptly replaces another color. Michelangelo was it's a really good example of his work. We'll take a look. I think I included some of his work in here. I don't remember, but tenebrism is also usually associated with Caravaggio as well, okay? So, and then sfumato with Da Vinci. So here we have Caravaggio, St. John the Baptist in Wilderness. 1604, one of the greatest examples of Caravaggio's chiaroscuro is St. John the Baptist in the Wilderness. In this artwork, we can see the figure of St. John the Baptist emerging from a shadowy forest, while his face and body are lit by a beam of golden light. As was common with his use of chiaroscuro, we do not see a source of light, just the way it shines on the subject of the piece. Caravaggio's use of chiaroscuro paved the way for a technique which will become known as tenebrism. So tenebrism is most often associated with really no details when it comes to the shadows. So when we look at the shadows, we don't really see a whole lot of detail, especially on the right side of his leg, on the red clothing. The shadows are not really described. There's just solid areas of just pitch blackness. So that's how we would want to understand tenebrism, how we differentiate it from perhaps like sfumato or chiaroscuro more generally. Okay. And here we have another example that I sort of tried to break down so that everyone can sort of understand where sort of the light source sort of originates in the shadows. But here, the Calling of St. Matthew is a painting completed in 1599, 1600s by the famous Italian painter Caravaggio. This large-scale oil painting depicts the moment when Jesus Christ inspires Matthew to follow him and become one of his apostles. Caravaggio's usage of tenebrism and chiaroscuro brings a dramatic effect, defining his revolutionary style and influencing painters all over Europe, known as Caravaggianism. Okay, great. Actually, I included this because let me go back to this. It was a part of a commission for the Contarelli Chapel. It has its companion piece, the Martyrdom of St. Matthew, which is this one here, which is also, of course, made by Caravaggio. And there's another Caravaggio conversion on the way to Damascus. He uses tenebrism to depict the dramatic moment when divine light struck and unhorsed the Roman who was afterwards known as the Apostle Paul. So as you can tell, tenebrism started to take more metaphorical undertones of transitioning between dark and lightness. But okay. And then we have here more of a clear idea of like the sfumato. So here we have the Mary's Immaculate Conception was much debated in the medieval Europe. This is really interesting for me because I wrote an essay on the Franciscans and Dominicans and how they sort of understood the Immaculate Conception. There was a controversial, kind of between the two groups, monastic groups, but they argue that in order for Christ to be born without original sin, which originated at the moment Adam and Eve disobeyed God in the Garden of Eden, his mother Mary also had to be free of sin. It was therefore necessary for the Virgin to have been conceived by God even before the creation of the world, and so before original sin. But you can see that also Da Vinci really also took under his belt the atmospheric perspective, and also to he's incorporating the warm and cool color schemes. You can see in the background that cool colors tend to recede and warm colors tend to be really up front in the foreshortened, right in the with the red here being in the foreground and blues here in the background. It really starts to separate the space. And here is another good example of the Virgin of the Rocks, which demonstrates Leonardo's revolutionary technique of contrasting light and shadow, known as you probably guessed, chiaroscuro, to define three-dimensional figures. By blocking out most of the sky and surrounding his figures with tall rocky outcrops, overhanging ledges, and dark hollows, Leonardo creates a gloomy environment from which the figures, faces, and bodies emerge as through spotlit. Okay, and then this is another fascinating artist that I found. I believe he's from Spain, Francisco de Suberan, Christ and the Virgin in the House of Nazareth. He was a Spanish painter whose painting genre was that of religious works depicting monks, nuns, saints, and martyrs. He was also a popular still life painter, but you can also see some sort of good examples of chiaroscuro, especially with the way in which where the light originates from and the shadows are sort of on the right hand side. Okay, and then Raphael, like I mentioned earlier, is a good example of how his work sort of demonstrates unione. What is apparent is that the technique was developed by Raphael in response to Leonardo da Vinci's sfumato. Unione may be defined as a blending of color while maintaining brightness. Great, and then that's it. That is the end of my presentation. So next we'll try to maybe create our own value scale next. And I guess I'll show you. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can show you maybe. Well, let me know. Does anybody have any questions or anything that maybe they want me to go back to? Do we have any questions so far in the chat or
No, I don't see any in the chat. You're all welcome to, we are recording this, but if you want to turn on your camera, you could do that. If you want to, you're welcome. Now it's an open forum. He's done the presentation. Feel free to,
yeah.
feel free to have a conversation, ask questions. Don't be shy. But if
Yeah,
not,
let us know in the
he'll go
chat
over
where
it and as we're going through the event, you might have a question. Just feel free to pipe in, that's all.
yeah, and also if you can drop in the chat where you're coming from, like where are you based, where are you located?
I like to say, where's your virtual studio?
Yeah, where's your virtual studio? We really would love to know. And then also too, let us know if you have any questions. This is a conversation open format. So please chime in whenever, if you have any questions, I'll be free to, either Jean or I will be
Right, Amy's in
really help
Orlando.
from Orlando, Florida. Okay, great. That's
Where are the
amazing.
people? And you,
Miramar. Okay, nice. That's awesome. So as you probably guessed, we're here in Miami. So I'm glad that everyone was able to join.
I'm gonna back out and give it back to you.
New Jersey, amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. And then let us know if you have any questions. Do you guys have any questions so far? Are you guys familiar with these terms? Maybe there's something that we can let me see, go back to. Okay, so I want to reiterate the importance of the tools that we use, the graphite pencil scales. I think that's really important. So today I don't have everything. It's okay if you don't have all the graphite pencils. It's not a big deal. As long as you have an HB pencil, which is a number 2 pencil, I think you'll be able to kind of create a value scale, the 9-step value scale, which is something that we're gonna do next. But if you want, you can sort of also, I think what's important is maybe to have just a number 2 pencil. I think that will be great. Some individuals tend to sharpen their pencils with with either an X-Acto knife or just a sharpener. And then oftentimes people have, what's that called to, like, oh no, it escapes my mind now. To sharpen your pencil further to make a really nice fine edge. I forget, sandpaper. Some artists use sandpaper to really, sand the tip of their pencil to make it really a nice fine edge. But I'm just glad that everyone able to make it. Great. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can maybe start with the 9-step value scale. Yeah, and just let us know. You could unmute yourself, maybe, but let me go ahead and stop sharing. Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. So let me go ahead and share the other screen that we have here so you can see my paper and pencils. Oh, from Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. Great. Okay, let me see how this works because I haven't. Okay, great. I think, can everybody see the other screen? I don't know if you can see let's see, the piece of paper here that I have here, so we can all maybe.
Yeah, it shows up.
Okay, great. Okay, let me make sure that okay, great. So here we just have a regular piece of paper, which I'm gonna go ahead and try to maybe show you. If you guys have a piece of paper that you can use, this is just basic like print, like paper that you use to, print inkjet, print copies. But you can use different types of pieces of paper. I preferably like, it depends what you want to use. For example, for graphite pencils, just a 300 Strathmore series kind of paper works just fine. But if you're using color pencil, for example, you can probably, I like using like a 400, 500, I think it's 400 Strathmore series paper, which is nice. And technically it's for ink and for markers, but for me, I feel like it blends the color pencils better. But nonetheless, so here, so I have a number 2 pencil. I actually do not have an HB pencil with me, but I like to use a stump. I like using a stump so I can blend my watercolors together. But let me show you the pencils that I have so far. I hope you all can see what I have here in my other screen. I don't know if you can see it, but these are the different types of marks and values that each pencil, graphite pencil, sort of can make. So you can see that the 4B is not, a 4H is the lightest one here that I have, which the HB is just a charcoal pencil, which is not graphite. It's not a graphite pencil. But HB, so we won't be using the HB charcoal pencil. So we have the 4H, which is light, nice and light. The 2 is for the most part HB, and then the darkest one that I have here is 8B. So now that we have that, actually, let's start out with maybe the sphere that we created. I don't know if maybe I should have the let me see if I can move this closer to my working table. But maybe the light source can be originating from the top. I don't know if you can see that, but my light source is going to be, let me get closer. I think that's better. Oh, you can see that. Okay. Well, let me see if that's better. Okay. So my light source is right over here. And that means that I have to understand where where the highlight is going to be. So I'm just going to make a sphere. Maybe draw lightly. Don't do it too dark. Because then it can be rather organic too. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, of course. But you can see that. And then I also have my kneaded eraser, although I probably need a new kneaded eraser, but kneaded erasers are really good for trying to blend in your values together. So I want to maybe, this is what you call like a pentamenter, which is just kind kind of like a rough rendering of the initiation of a sketch. So maybe I want to kind of lighten that up a little bit. And then maybe I want to start to kind of integrate um, my values a little bit. So we could maybe the dark areas are going to be on the left-hand side. So it's opposite to my light source. So I want to go ahead lightly and maybe blend those in. And I'm just kind of hatching everything together. My sphere, I'm trying to create, we're going to create a sphere and then we'll do the 9-step value scale on the same piece of paper too. So I just kind of have my sphere here so far. Actually, I think it'll be better to have the value scale first. So I have my ruler. My ruler is a little bit rough looking, but it's okay because that's fine. I use it for my painting works. So that's why it's like has a lot of, but nonetheless, we'll just create the 9-step value scale. So maybe use the whole width of my, before we even, I have the sphere already, but I kind of want to maybe, so you want to divide your little rectangle into nine squares. It's going to be, maybe the middle is here. Let's see if I have this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then maybe I need room for another one. So let me go ahead and try to maybe move this closer a little bit. Make the squares a little smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so we have 9. So maybe I'm going to use maybe my 8B. So maybe 8B for the darkest value. Let's see, 4B. So I'm going to use 8B to for the darkest area. I can find it. 8B. There it is. So we'll just so actually we'll label them. So we'll do black. We'll have low dark, dark, high dark. I'm going from right to left. Okay. High dark, mid value, low light, and then we have light, highlight, and white. And the white will just leave blank. I mean, I guess we could add a little bit, but we could just, but for the black, I'm just going to use, I'm going to label it here so I know. Okay, so 8B. So your black, you can use an 8B, you can use something darker, 12B. Okay, so we just want to go ahead and shade in the rectangle, try to make it nice and even. In this 4B, we can use 8B, I'm sorry, we can use for the area where is the darkest, okay? Which would be the cast shadow. So we render the cast shadow. It'll be a dark area. So let's go ahead and quickly try to patch things together. Okay. I hope you could all see my other screen. Sure. Okay. So that'll be, do you see the clear contrast between the,
Yes, it's showing up very well.
yeah, that's good, good. You can see that my cast shadow is a dark area. Okay. So we could even label it. We could even label cast shadow here. Also, you want to add some of the black dark areas here too as well, where the low dark is located, and also to the cast shadow, we added that. Maybe let's see, what can we use? Okay, maybe we can integrate the same 8B, maybe somewhere in the dark areas as well, very lightly. Remember, you could always use your stump. Your stump, I like using stump. A lot of artists, for some reason, um, are not, they kind of avoid using a stump, but I don't mind it. I think it's actually very helpful. You can probably even create your own stump at home with just rolling pieces of paper together. I actually have like you could even use cotton too. Cotton here that I've used in the past, of course, but you could even use that to kind of, and it kind of it has a really nice effect. So with my 8B, I just want to continue my black. So let's just jump back to the Denman Ross value scale. That's the value scale. So we want to make sure it's really nice and dark. Okay. Maybe blend it in together some more with your stump. So you can make nice even sort of shade of black. And then maybe we can just clean it up a little bit later. Maybe you could even go back with the 8B. And darken that area a little bit more. So for me, in how I sort of do it, how I go, my process is I like to start with the dark values first. That's kind of for me very important. I think it's just this, my mentor really pushed me to start out with my dark values when it came to painting. So for me, it just becomes very sort of organic to start with my dark values. So that's where I usually start. We also we have a vinyl eraser. So also you can cut these into slice them to get more so that they can make really nice flanges. And then we have this Stadler eraser, which I prefer the vinyl ones actually. Okay, so far so good. So now we have now we want to make sure that the black number 9 rectangle is nice and dark. It should be very, very dark. You should be able to sort of
Hey, Seb.
yeah.
So Charm is asking about your stump. She's asking what is it? How do you spell it? She's just asking about what it is.
Stump is a tool that artists use to blend in their values together from light to dark. They often use it with charcoal, but it's basically paper that has been rolled up to look like a pencil. You can see the tip here, and it has a really nice edge to it. And you can really, I think it might be even be newsprint. I'm not really sure, but
Here we
you
go.
can get
Yeah, I think it is newsprint. I'm gonna put a link in the chat. They're called either tortillons, which is a fancy word, or blending stumps, like a leg stump, like a stump.
blending stumps. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put
Yeah.
that in there. I just found something on Amazon, no, I'm
Nice.
not a affiliate. I just found something. And at least you could see what it is and what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you don't really need to have a blending stub. You can have a piece of paper, not a piece of, you can use a piece of, but maybe like a towel, like a piece of what paper towel that also works fine. But the stump has a nice edge to it, so it's perfect for those little intricate details that you might want to kind of incorporate into your drawing. But I want to make sure that I use my 8B pencil and go around the edge of the sphere and try to really start to carve in some of those dark values into my drawing. And remember, the cast shadow is a really dark area, so you want to make sure that you kind of go over it multiple times. And we're just we're doing one, we're using one graphite pencil at the moment, just because I think that will really, so we can just focus in on trying to blend and make sure that everything there is sort of dark, nice and dark, but you want to make sure that you kind of, because you could always erase the dark areas of the 8B, so you can go really dark with it. You can go really, even if it's you might not see the darkness there, you can get away with it because you can sort of go back and erase it again. So you want to make sure that you kind of start to incorporate the dark value into your sphere more and more as you go, as you sort of fill in the scale, the value scale. And usually I like to have something behind my paper. Like if I have other sheets of paper, I really like, it creates a nice even sort of gradation of values. So for me, it helps me, but you could also use just a drawing board if you have one at home. But if you don't, you can just really find just a surface that doesn't have a lot of texture, and then that can probably help you. But you can, with my stump, I could sort of go ahead and just blend the sphere, everything together. And you'll notice that the 8B or whatever dark pencil you're using, really it's going to help you sort of go back to the cover the different types of values. So it makes it easy for you to sort of always just go back. But the kneaded eraser, we'll probably bring that in later. Once we have everything sort of together here. This is where our sphere is starting to kind of, so we're basically spreading the graphite on the piece of paper so that we can start to see the different values. So maybe my cast shadow needs to be a little bit bigger, but since it's like really close to that edge, I'll just keep it like that so far. Okay, so next next we'll stick to the 8B pencil again. Maybe go to the low dark next. And then here, we don't want to apply too much pressure to the low dark, and we want to make sure it's even. So I'm just moving my graphite horizontally. And of course, it's going to get darker than just, as long as it's a nice sort of gradient. So here I'm trying to even out the values here. Of course, it has to make a really nice transition from black to low dark. But it just depends. Some people like to start with the white area first and then maybe move jump around a little bit. That's totally fine. I think as long as you're able to differentiate all the values from each other, then yeah, that's just basically what we really want to sort of achieve. But I like to start out with my darkest value first, just so that I have a context. I want to have as clear context as want, and I feel like because then I can contrast, the lightest value. So here we might want to go a little darker. It's a little too light still. Okay, let me grab my stump, blend it in thoroughly. And here I just drew in my boxes and my rectangles, but you can probably just make these boxes on some sort of software, and then you can print it out. And then maybe I just want to start next. I want to move into my dark. So I'm going to go ahead and use my stump to kind of blend it in more since it's already overlapping onto the next rectangle. And then I wish I could show you cross-hatching as well, because that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy cross-hatching. It's really fun activity. So here we're good. So we want to go back again. I'm gonna go back with my 8B pencil. Let me go over my low dark, maybe make it a little darker. It's a little too light. And now it's starting to look sort of appropriate. So maybe now I'm gonna move on to my dark, maybe make my dark a little darker. So add more graphite. Not too dark, not too dark. Not too dark, because then it's gonna be very difficult to. And of course, you can use paint as well. You know, if maybe you have acrylic paint with you, or oil paint, you can definitely do the same thing with that media. But that's a little bit more challenging, I think, just because acrylic paint and oil paint sort of function differently than graphite pencils and maybe charcoal, but I prefer. So now I'm gonna go back and forth between my low dark, maybe make my low dark a little darker, and I might even go back to my black and make it a little darker. So you're just constantly going between back and forth with different value scales, okay, so that you can really achieve a nice transition between. So I'm gonna go back to my dark. Yeah, I think that's the darkest it's gonna go, or can it go darker? Let's see. Dark, darker. You're gonna make sure it's nice and even. Sure, it's nice and even. Rectangle is nice and even. I usually tell my students to make 2 of these. I really feel like it's very important for them to at least understand like the transitions and values. I think that's probably the most important thing that we have, that we can sort of try to articulate in our work. I mean, we use values in our work constantly. So now I want to go maybe to my dark. So I'm constantly sort of working between my values. Then maybe go into my high dark. Let's look at those high darks here. High dark. Remember, that's going to be more closer to the center of the sphere. Just want to make sure. Great. Need to make sure that it's nice and even. You don't want to have areas that are darker than others in the rectangle, in the high dark rectangle, for example. That's good. Perfect. So maybe go back. My dark. Maybe darken it a little bit. Let me go back with my stump and try to blend it in together so it can look nice and even. Yeah. So, I mean, if you are using oil paints, you can glaze your values together. I think that'll probably be the easiest way to try to create your value scale. And then also too, something very important is trying to compare between hues and values, because hues, as we saw earlier with Michelangelo and Raphael, also play an important part in creating depth and 3-dimensionality. So you just want to make sure that different colors are different hues. Well, different colors, first of all, different hues, I'm sorry, different hues convey different values too. So you can have a color that's yellow, but you can have maybe a yellow ochre and a lime yellow, and they have different values. You know what? The lime being more lighter than the yellow ochre. So here I want to blend my high dark a little bit more thoroughly. And then maybe with my stump, maybe make it go into my mid value. I remember that I was in school and they didn't allow us to use stumps. Blending stumps were something that we were not really allowed to use, but I really, some people use their finger, actually. Some people use their finger and they kind of blend in things with their finger. And apparently that's how Da Vinci made his Mona Lisa, was dabbing. I mean, some areas, not all of some areas. But I mean, I don't even think he made the whole painting himself. I think he had help with some of his apprentice make the background. I think that's sort of how things worked during the Renaissance, or when they had guilds. If I'm right, I'm no art historian though, but from what I understand, I think somebody else made that, and then he kind of like dabbed with his finger the transitions of the sfumato. Perfect. So now we're starting to see a little bit more of the different sort of values come into shape. So you want to make sure that they're clear. Maybe my mid value might have to be a little darker. So instead of using my 8B, I'm going to use, let's see, let's try 6B. Let's try 6B. I'm gonna use my 6B to maybe bring in more darkness to my mid value. I feel like it's easier to go lighter than it is to go darker, which is why I started out with my darks. Yeah, that's nice. And then maybe this 6B can go into my sphere as well. So I haven't been really working on my sphere much, but I will once I stop here. Okay, maybe I can just go back over some of the low, high, dark areas in my sphere. And then this area is gonna be, actually, let me 8B. This is gonna be very dark here. This edge here where the cast shadow meets the sphere, the reflected light, I'm sorry, it's gonna be a little darker. Let me bring my stump in. Maybe start to create the, just 8B. No, 6B, let's do 6B. So we're constantly back and forth using, I tell my students as well, you need to have at least 3, 4 pencils in your hand while you're drawing. You cannot have one pencil. That's not enough. You need to really be technically savvy, and you really need to understand how each pencil works. Because, I mean, unless you're comfortable with just using one pencil, which is fine, I don't think it, but when you're in school, you know, you want to learn as much as you can. So I try to tell everyone that they really need to sort of incorporate different tools in their work, because that's how artists sort of go about creating really interesting works, is using different tools. So I'm going big with my 6B. I'm trying to go around my dark areas, and I'm really trying to bring everything sort of together. And then remember that, let me label this. Let me see this. So my white area is going to be maybe over here. Then what's next? My highlight might be like over here somewhere. Somewhere over here. Am I gonna go so you want to make sure that you blend stuff, let's see. Bring stuff, try to kind of close in the sphere. And I want to make sure that my highlight is prominent, right? So I want to leave it white. I don't want to kind of blend in the graphite onto that area of the paper. I want to make sure it's like a really clear highlight. You know, maybe you can go back with your maybe need eraser and really try to get the erase away the sphere so that it becomes nice and round. You could even use not a protractor. I forgot the tool that makes a circle. I don't remember. Okay, so we have this. Making it round. Yeah, we could always just erase the highlight away. Sure. Let's go back. Make the highlight a little smaller. So I think you're kind of seeing the highlight a little bit more. This is good. So you want to make sure that it's like nice blended together. Make sure you blend that together. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna blend my mid value and my value scale a little more. I'm gonna make sure that things all together really nicely. Great. I might have to with my 6B, I want to go back into my high dark. Maybe make it a little, just a little bit darker. Just a little bit darker. Great. Okay, I think that's good. You can't see that. I think my dark needs to be a little darker too. So I'm gonna go with my 6B, go into that dark again. Clean it out. I think that's good. Yep. Great, and then now I'm gonna move on to my low light. I guess you can have a piece of paper underneath so that you don't under your palm, under your hand, so you don't mistakenly blend things together, or your paper can stay a little clean. This is why I like using stumps, because you can really you don't have to worry about using the graphite going too dark. Maybe the graphite's too dark. Perfect. And then blend my mid value again. Make sure everything's sort of. Yeah, I think it's coming together very nicely. Let me make sure that. Where's my needed eraser? Maybe clean it up a little bit. Getting a little dirty. That happens. That's usual with graphite pencils. So now you're seeing the transitions. This transitions of value scale. It's coming out really nicely. I'm really happy with it. And then now I want to go back with my stump, maybe bring in that light area, and maybe I want to use my which one should I use next? Let me see. Maybe use I could use my HB, I guess. But I'm gonna use the 4H. 4H. Let's see, 4H maybe, but that's after I blend things together a little more thoroughly. My light. And you can use this value scale with other with your work, with if you're drawing something, you can compare and contrast, see where the area where you need to go darker. Remember, values is relative to each other. So depending on where you pair up values together, maybe something darker with something lighter, it might just become a little too dark. You just gotta make sure that kind of are able to something happened here. I don't know. I got like a little smudge here. So I want to go use my 4H. My 4H, I'm gonna kind of bring it into my low light a little bit, maybe make my low light a little darker. Because it's looking too close to the light. I don't know what happened here. There's like a little smudge there. Great, that looks great. That is better. Yep. Yep. Maybe a little darker. I think you might have to just like look at it from different angles, because graphite tends to be very reflective. Let's see. And maybe go back with my stump. Little light, not too much pressure. And then once I have that, I think that's I might go back to my mid value with my 4H and go back to my mid value and darken it a little bit more. Darken it. Maybe go back with my high dark again with the same pencil. Darken that a little more. So you want to make sure that they all look different. You want to make sure they all look different values. You have different values. Okay. And you know what helps too? Maybe you're unsure, maybe it's difficult for you to kind of differentiate between whether you should make it darker or lighter. Take a picture. You can take a picture of it, and then look at the photograph, the picture on your phone, and that's gonna help you. And maybe reverse it. You can reverse the image. Also too, if you want to maybe use color, you can take a picture of whatever painting you're working on and turn it black to grayscale, black and white, and that can also help you to kind of really see where you might you know you need to go darker or lighter. It just depends. Okay. Great, good. So now my highlight is going to be very light. Even, I just saw something. I'm gonna use my 4H, go back into my light, maybe try to even out some of those areas. Very good. I think I'm almost done with my value scale. Yeah, yeah. So the white, I'm just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna okay, so add any graphite onto that area, and then now I want to go ahead and maybe I think I'm just gonna go darker with my in the area with the sphere for my dark. Just be right over here. And then maybe my low dark. Okay, so my light source is over here with my 8.6B. So I'm gonna go a little darker. I'm just gonna go touch upon my values, my sphere. Make it a darker on the left hand side where the light doesn't hit that area. I'm gonna try to darken that up a little bit. It needs to be darker. Does anybody have any questions? Are you guys also working on your spheres? I would love to see your value scale. Do you guys want me to see your value scale? Can you show me what you're working on? Okay, it seems like my dark area is a little like up here. My sphere. I want to go ahead and darken that. One more. Nice. Great. That's great. I'm gonna take a sip of my. Second. Great. Hey, how's everyone doing so far? Good?
No.
Everyone's concentrated on their values. Good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, but great. Let me see. Okay. It helps to look at the diagram, right? The example. I don't know if maybe I should put that up in the share the screen. Let me know if I should maybe put the example for my PowerPoint, if that will help you with the value scale.
I think everyone's focused on their scales.
Good. So it seems like my I'm gonna darken the midsection of the sphere a little bit so that I can have my reflected light. And I'm using 6B a lot, so I'm probably gonna stop using 6B now. Let me use my stump. Stump. You want to make sure you're blending it from different directions so it can have a really nice effect. Maybe let me put a paper on top of this area so that it doesn't smudge.
A little stump really helps to blend it and make it look smooth.
Yeah. Yeah. You can use yeah, paper towels, anything that you might have available.
But it's nice. It's a nice effect.
Mm-hmm. Or you can just use your finger too.
Uh-huh.
I have this student who uses their finger all the time.
Yeah.
She's like always using.
I do that when I'm working too. I use my finger a lot, either with pencil or on when I'm painting or with ink, whatever. Because I like to just get my fingers in it.
Yeah.
I told my
Yeah.
kids, I said, if you didn't get dirty, you weren't having fun. So, I got to get dirty.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that some professors have an issue with that, with using your finger or using a stump because it facilitates the blending process. So a lot of the time they just want you to blend it with just, I don't know, I mean, with just your pencils, your graphite pencils, your charcoal pencils, but I don't think it's, for me, it's not it's um, not something I sort of hold students from using back then, you know what I mean? So now I'm going over my 4H. Trying to make things a little darker, but not too dark. Just making sure that I kind of cover, go darker. And you'll notice that these are just subtle transitions, subtle value transitions. It's gonna help you to maybe a little darker at the top area, darker. Great. So remember, you want to start with an HB pencil and then maybe that's just a sketch. Your rough sketch should be with an HB pencil and then start out with your darks. I think is easy. I find it that that's the easiest way to kind of like
Yeah, that Riley is saying that, she knows hard or H is for hard, but it doesn't seem to work. And so if she associates H to highlight, maybe, would that still be accurate to help remember? I think so, right? H for highlight. That's kind of a good trick. Get your brain to work.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Hard or
definitely.
highlight.
Mhm. Yeah, highlight. Yep. Yeah, that's a good also too. Like yeah, the higher the number that next to the H is the harder the lead, which it's lighter. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. That's a good way to memorize it as well. Good.
love that word, inculcate.
What?
There's a word that inculcate, really put in there. I can't seem to inculcate. I love that word. That's great. So there you go. You got it right.
Yeah, that's good. Good.
Nice.
I had this student, brilliant individual. He's making we're working on a linear perspective. I think he was working on his 1 point perspective, and he's trying to sort of really understand the shadows and cast shadows and in his drawing. And I think that you can understand shadows by using just regular objects. I showed him with my phone. I turned on my light, my
Oh yeah.
what's it called? My the I don't remember now. The light, whatever, the light on your phone,
The
your
flashlight.
flash your flashlight, and I used a remote control and I was moving the flashlight so you can see the shadows. You can do that as well if you're working on a landscape or whatever you're working on. You can definitely try to maybe even build a maquette and try to really understand where the shadows are sort of casting from the light source. I think I'm gonna go a little darker with my 8B on the shadows on the sphere of the sphere. Just a little darker. I think it needs to go a little bit darker. Great. A little bit darker. I think also too to understand value, I think looking at master artist works, paintings, and making a copy of them too, like drawing them. I think that will help as well. I think that's really also too, something that anybody can do, and it will help you really understand how value works.
Yeah, it can be a little intimidating sometimes, but if you just like get in there and do it, even if you're just copying the shades and the lights and darks, right? Try not to like beat yourself up about not being perfect. It is
Right.
good to practice the light and darks.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere, you just gotta throw
Yeah.
yourself into it and just start and just do it. As long as you try. I mean, you can make multiple drawings of the same sort of master work. I mean, who's to say, what's perfect and what's not? So I just sort of like, I just go with it. I just like, try to, especially if it's just studies. Studies don't really have to be very serious, right? They just can be sort of an investigation or experimentation of a value scale, color theory. I mean, you name it, you can just make a.
Right. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. So, um, Anybody have questions or comments? They want to share what they've been working on?
Yeah.
How's your moment to show off your shading skills?
Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah.
Did anyone find, I mean, was this helpful to some of you? I hope so.
Yeah, definitely helpful.
Cool.
Awesome. That's
I didn't get too far, but
Hang on, I'm gonna spotlight
Let me
you.
see.
There we go.
Nice.
Pretty good.
That's great.
I didn't even get down to the lighter colors down here, the lighter
Oh,
gradation.
yeah.
But
Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, Joan. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
that's
welcome.
wonderful. Good job.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? I want to see everybody's. Everybody's.
I did make the mistake of starting with an ebony jet black. So I had trouble switching from pencil to pencil. I
Oh,
think I'm going to do something someone suggested, make a little rack and put them in order so you know which one you're grabbing when.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, I thought it was too.
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
I'm
because
gonna make
otherwise they
one.
just all look the same. And when you're looking
Yep.
at them, they look the same.
Yep.
That's
And
smart.
yeah, think it's a great idea. You just drill holes in a piece of wood, cut the middle of it, and then you've got yourself a rack, a little rack to put your pencils, depending how many rows you drilled.
Yeah, so smart.
I
yeah.
thought it was a really good tip.
Now, if you just remember to put them right in the same spot.
No.
True.
Nice.
Color code them.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny. I love the tips. I love the tips. Oh, I see Kathleen had to leave. Kathleen left. Thank you, Kathleen. Yes,
Great.
just
Yeah.
about done. So,
Yeah.
if nobody else is questions or sharing, I'll say that like I said, we are recording this one and we'll put it up on. Oh, hang on. We got to share. Amy is ready.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Oh, in there too.
spotlight
Nice.
for Amy. Oh,
Oh,
look at that.
nice.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's real good.
Ah,
Man, you're like a pro.
You got a cylinder on there too.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. Your grid
yeah.
is
Looks
great.
good.
Oh,
It's
really
really,
nice.
really good. Yeah.
Really nice. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
Love that.
Great job.
Yeah. See, I love this. Oh, the term's got the little hearts going up. That's great. So we're going, I can put in the chat actually. I can put the YouTube for collaboARTive. So we have a YouTube and we're putting a lot of these things up on YouTube. I'll put it in the chat so you guys can like.
Since it's being recorded, does that mean we can go in at any time and see this again?
Yes.
Or yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you, typically, Seb will give me the PowerPoint that he showed, so I will share that. Eventually, when I remember.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, that presentation that he makes, I'll share
Okay.
that in an email. But then you also can go back and see the videos once they're uploaded. The last one is up there now. The color theory one is up there.
Okay.
I don't know if we did one for the very first one, frottage, but I know that the perspective one is up and the color theory is up, and then this one will be there soon. And eventually we'll just have like a little library of all of these art fundamentals, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a great
Oh.
idea.
Yeah, so there you go. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thanks for doing this with us. I appreciate you showing up. I hope it was
Oh.
useful.
Yeah, thank you. The next one will be what is it? Collage, right? Is that what we're
Collage. Yeah, we'll do it the last Wednesday of the month and it's collage. Yeah, which should be fun, right? I know, right? I'm excited too, Riley. I know, collage. So yeah, that should be cool. You know, I'll be there.
Mhm.
That's it, I think, guys. If I'll let
Thank
finish-
you.
I'll let you
Yes,
finish up
thank you
and
very
say-
much
and-
for joining us today. Yeah, it's been wonderful, and everybody has really nice drawings so far, so that's good. Yeah, great. Sorry, my paper fell. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank
Let's
you.
do it again. and we-
Bye, thank
Oh,
you.
yes, I agree. I agree. Thank you for that, Amy. Great idea. Yes. Thank you for that tip. Thank you. All
You're
right.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us, okay? Bye.
Oh, boy.
Is somebody? Okay. Bye.